Hey everybody, it's me, it's Undead Viking, coming to you with another video review. It is, well, if you live up north like I do in the Great White North of Minnesota, and I live kind of out in the middle of nowhere, you fully know that right now we are embroiled in really bad weather and like super cold. So I have ditched the Minnesota Twins baseball cap, and now I'm wearing this awesome stocking cap, or toque, to my Canadian friends, that my wife got for me for Christmas. And speaking of which, Merry Christmas to all of you, and Happy Holidays and what have you. I haven't done a video since Christmas, and I sincerely hope that you got some awesome board games as gifts from your loved ones, and perhaps you gave some awesome board games as gifts to your loved ones. I know I gave my younger brother some stuff that I thought he'd like, but it was pretty cool. I mean, I got lots of cool stuff for Christmas, but probably I'll show you. Probably the coolest thing I got, well, I shouldn't say this is the coolest thing, but as far as board games are concerned, I got Roads and Boats. I finally have my complete Splotter collection, and maybe I'll do a review of that because it's a pretty fun game. That's that. But shove all that aside, because today I'm reviewing Nations from Asmodee Games. Nations is a civilization game for 2 to 5 people. Technically you can play it solo. I haven't played it solo, but I have played it with 2, I played it with 3, and I played it with 5. That stinking 4th person, you know, I can never get the 4-player game going. But Nations is a game where you are taking your nation, if you will, and you are growing it from like, I forget what it goes to, like just about the cusp of World War I, and I think it's like something like almost like prehistoric times is like the idea that like you're just kind of building this nation like from scratch. And the thing about civilization games is, like, when I was when I was 18, the first Civilization game for the computer, Civilization by Sid Meier, came out just a moment. And that was like that first game that like kind of let people know that you could make a really amazing computer game simulation of starting a small little tribe and growing it into space exploration and beyond, right? And there's been lots of other games that like have done that civilization feel for computers and stuff like that. But for it to transfer over to board games, it's been kind of tough, in my opinion. Of course, like, the game most people bring up and think about is Through the Ages, and I like Through the Ages a great deal. I know that, yeah, it's right there. You can't see it, but it's right there. Through the Ages is a game that it's a brain melter, and even though it's for multiple people, you know, like it's really a 2-player game, just because of the fact that it is so involved, and the rules set is very, you know, I mean, once you know how to play, like a lot of other games, it's not so bad, but it's tough, you know, it's tough to for people to like kind of dive into it, I guess, if you will. And there's been games like Mare Nostrum, which I thought was really good. Unfortunately, it's out of print, but I thought that was a really good game, and I thought it got even better with the expansion, the mythology expansion. But that kind of was one of those things where it was like, yeah, it's a civilization game, but you know, it's such a small little period of time, and so it isn't really that big, long, epic feel that I wanted. And of course, there was Sid Meier's Civilization from Fantasy Flight Games that came out, and I don't know what it was about that game. It never really grabbed me. I wanted to like it, I really did, but it just I don't know, it didn't scratch the itch that I thought that it would, if you will. And there's been some other ones too, but I mean, it's just like I've been wanting. I guess what I've wanted I mean, I already have there's already a really good civilization game out there. It's Through the Ages, but what it doesn't have is it doesn't have the approachability that I'm looking for to, like, you know, I don't need a super. I don't want a super heavy Euro if I want to have a civilization game. I want to be able to play Civilization and just have it be a heavy Euro, or maybe a medium heavy Euro or something like that. So I was really excited about Nations. I was really excited about the idea of it. I mean, it looked and it seemed like it was going to feel a little bit like Through the Ages, and maybe that isn't the best comparison possible. But I was really excited to give this one a try. I was really excited when I read the rules, when I heard about it. My buddy Joel Eddy, like, he tried to poo-poo it to me. If Joel watches this. Ecomouse, if you don't know, Drive-Thru Reviews. You should really check out his reviews if you haven't. But he tried to poo-poo it. He said, like, he had talked to a few people, and, like, some people were really liking it and some people weren't. And so it kind of made me worry a little bit, you know. But really cool that I was able to get a copy of it sent to me from Bobby Stickle, my buddy over at GTS Distribution. And they hooked me up with a copy. And so as soon as I got it, I ripped it open, and I played it now, as I said, with lots of people and several times. And so what I'm going to do, as I always do, is I'm going to show you how to play the game, and, you know, kind of go over the components and go over the rules. And then we'll come back, and I'll tell you exactly you know, what I think of the game. And as always, hopefully somewhere along the way during this little ride you're going to take with me today, you'll figure out whether or not this is a game you want to put on your shelf back here. I really, God, I needed to reorganize this. I've been, like, I keep telling my wife I need like 5 hours alone in my board game room, but I have a wife and 2 kids, so I don't get 5 hours alone ever. So but all right, cool. Well, how to play Nations. Let's do this. This is Nations. Now, what you see in front of you, these are the 2 main boards that you'll be putting in the middle of the table. And then each player will have a board like this that they'll have, and this is their little tableau, if you will. This is what they'll be using to show the progress, and then the development, and the creation, and then the history and the future, whatever, of their civilization. Just to quickly show you, on these boards, and I got the other boards underneath there, you can see, like, there's definite locations for each type of card, with an exception here. I'll explain that. This is for an advisor, obviously. There's one of those. Colonies, there's 2 of these. You can see these are your wonders that you'll be able to build. This is where you put a wonder that's under construction. And it sits there until it's done, and then it goes down here, and you can see you only have 5 wonders that you can make during the game. So you do have to be a little choosy, you know, if you want to, you know, pick. I can see if after you've played the game a few times that there's certain wonders later in the game that you really want, things like that. You might not want to build like a bunch of ones right at the beginning. Up here, these blue ones are buildings, and this middle one, the Axeman. That's the Axeman. He is the like the military unit, and you'll be placing cards over these. Now, it should be noted that you can put a red or a blue over any of these spots. You could put a building over the Axeman, and then you just don't have military until you purchase another military unit. You could have 2 military units over here and just two buildings, you know. And once you cover something up, it's taken. It can't ever go back. And so, like, if you have a card there, if you purchase a card and, like, bought like a granary or something here, you'll have that card there. And then if you buy something and it takes its spot, you remove that card and you get rid of it, and then the new card takes its spot, and you can never really go back. You might be wondering about some of these symbols, and I will explain in more detail here in just a little bit. Down here, these are where your reserve meeples, we'll say your reserve workers, and you just, as you saw when I took them off, you just have them sitting in these spots. And as you take them, you remove them, and you either remove them from the spot that basically says -3 food production, meaning you're using food to feed your people, or -3 stability, and immediate decrease in the stability of your nation. I guess basically just more people means you gotta control more, so it's tougher to keep track of everyone, I guess, or something along those lines. And this is a really good way to point out that a black is a decrease. So the color black on one of these, either a circle or a square, means you're decreasing something, and obviously the minus helps you understand that as well. And a circle is an effect that doesn't happen until the actual production occurs, and the minus, the squares over here are an immediate adjustment. Whenever when you go ahead and like use those. And so you can see up here on the Axeman, there's a square, red square, 2 military power. So if you put a meeple on here, basically making an Axeman, you'd immediately get 2 military strength. That would occur automatically. But when a production came along, it would cost you another food, basically to feed your soldiers. And you can see over here there's production books. Books are an interesting resource. They're kind of your national history, your national heritage, if you will. And so you always want to have lots of books, because basically, whoever is the greatest nation, writes history or whatever. So the more you are able to keep your books and your history and your national heritage up and above everybody else, you get more victory points. But you can see pretty obviously this produces a coin, produces rocks and a coin. Farm produces food and rocks. And you can see here, this is the stability. And like if you put a caravan, you just would immediately gain a point in stability. And I'll explain what stability is in just a little bit. And then you would gain during production, you'd gain a coin. You'll notice that there's these little tiny circles here, -1, -1, -1. That isn't a production thing. When you place a worker on a building or a unit or whatever to basically use it during production, there is a cost of putting that particular unit on that spot, and that is the cost. It costs a stone to be able to put a worker on there. So that isn't a production, that's a process of putting on. Now you'll notice down here, this is your starting stuff: 3 grain, 6 rocks, 6 money, 7 victory points, and 5 starting workers. And you can see this letter A here, and this is Egypt. If you flip the card over, you can see that it's actually much different. The starting stats are different. This is kind of like the advanced game. There's the special ability that they have. They have private architect. Architects are the people that work on wonders. I'll explain that in a little bit. Look, they already have a wonder. They have the pyramids already. So you can see like they don't have that starting military unit sitting there, things like that. And obviously then not everybody is starting the same. So like here's Rome and A, and Rome is exactly the same as Egypt, A. But on the back of Rome, you can see, they have the legionary there, they have the aqueduct farm. Their special is, 2 military. They don't have a wonder, things like that. So and then there's 5 nations that you can choose from, and here's China and Persia, and this is the B side of Persia. I don't know why, but like you can see, that's they can have 3 colonies, so a little bit different. And Greece. There, Greece. Now let's just look at the B side of Greece, and I'll show you the B side of the other one too. So like the B side of Greece, they get a bonus to the golden ages. They have a hoplite, things like that. And what was the one I didn't show you? Oh, China. And that was the A side. Here's the B side of China. And you can see, look at all those wonders that China can have. They can have more wonders than everybody else. So you can see that things do change up and are different. And I do always like games that have variable starting powers and abilities, and because that means that the designers, theoretically, and in this game they did, put some effort and some work into coming up with ways to have everybody not starting at the exact same point in the game, but it's all balanced as well. So I really dig that. All right, so there we go. I'm just going to have the A side just to make things easy. Over here, this board here is where we'll be placing the cards from the different ages, and we'll place those down. I'll show that in just a second. This is the scoring track. This is the books. It goes around the circle, and if you ever get 50 books, you just get one of these tokens, and you just keep that. So then you just keep it going around the circle. This is just the progress bar. So you'd have around, and then in antiquity, and then medieval, Renaissance, and industrial. You'll notice that there's a victory point symbol here. When you get to that point, that's when you do a books scoring moment. And what happens during a book scoring moment is that each player who has progressed further on the books track, for every other player that they progressed further than they have at that point, they get a victory point. Ties, you don't get anything. And so, basically, in a two-player game like I have set up, if it whatever ended up like that, blue would get a victory point for being ahead of green, but green obviously wouldn't get anything. This is the stability track. You can see that there is a revolt when you get to the minus. You can go lower than -3, but you can see there's just an infinity. Once you get to that point, it's just you're minus. And the stability has a maximum of 15. Stability will fluctuate a lot during the game because it's one of those one-time creation things where as soon as you put a worker on that spot, you just get that. Or when you take a colony that gives you stability, you just get it. Or an advisor, you just get it, and it just sits there. It's kind of like a resource that you can spend, because you can then use stability to do other things, like put workers out and things like that. And so you're always going to be kind of using stability to purchase things, and a lot of times during events and things like that, it's really important. It also, if you go to war and you lose a war, having a high stability protects you against the negative aspects of the war. Say you have a war where you lose 5 gold. If your stability is at least 5, you wouldn't lose the gold. You'd have enough stability that your country wouldn't have that detrimental effect. So stability is actually very important, and it's kind of a cool fluctuating resource that you have during the game. This part is the architects that are available, and you can see with one player there's 0, but 2 players there's always going to be 1 architect available, and then there's this spot down here for when you put an event down, and that'll tell you how many more architects are available. As I said, architects are what build the wonders that you're going to be making. Player order is very important, because the player order, obviously, when the person who goes first is going to be able to pick which card they want first, and they also, they have that, they get to do their actions before the other person, and this is a game where, when I'm going to get to the action phase, and did I mention this is going to be kind of a longer review? I didn't? Okay, well it is. So when you get to the actions part of the game, you will be you will take an action, and as soon as you pass, you can't take any more actions. And then the other people just sit there and they can do things. And it's very, very... This game is very much about the player order. And it is very much about being able to sometimes take a minor action. And to kind of hope that the other players have to show their hand as far as what they want to do, or what direction they're going to go. So you can then play against it. So if somebody was decided they're going to go military, but they didn't want the other people to know, because they wanted to go military and then maybe buy a war, so then they could they could attack the other players. You don't want to show your hand right away. You don't want to get a big military, because then everybody realizes what you're going to do, and then they're going to go after you, and they're going to do the same thing. So you want to hold off and wait and do that. But if you're able to take little tiny bite-sized pieces of actions, you can then kind of line the reads. So player order is very important. So even though going first is really cool because you get like the first grab at the card, sometimes going last is good too because you get to see what everybody else is doing and you get to see where the directions people are going. The other thing here is the military strength. Pretty easy. It's just that once again a fluctuating stat. Basically, as you create military units, this will go up. And you can get military strength other ways too. You can get military strength through colonies and advisors and things like that. And as you take workers away from those military, so like say you have like a swordsman that has a military strength of 5, the blue, and so blue puts a worker on that, and so they have 5, and then they put another worker on it, it goes up to 10. But then for whatever reason they decide, oh my gosh, I don't have enough food, I need to like take that soldier and put him on a farm, and so then they would go back down, and so it goes up and down as the game progresses. Military might determines player order. So in this case, green and blue are like green's first and blue's second. So if after the round ends and the military might was 10 and 8, blue for the next round would go first before green. If for whatever reason they ended up in the same spot, like so, you maintain the player order that was set up prior to that moment. So, just very important. So that's how you determine who the first player is. So that's kind of that board over there. And now we can kind of move forward. I can actually show you what happens during the game. Normally, like this is off, so like we're in the first turn of the game. We're in the A phase of antiquity, the very first age of the game. And the first thing you do is you're going to refill the progress cards. And this is the progress board. In a 2-player game, you will fill... you can't probably see it, but there's this number 3, 4, and 5. You're going to fill the first 4 spots in this. And then this is filled with a 3-player game, that's filled with a 4-player game, and that's filled with a 5-player game. So, I'm just going to show you these decks of cards really quick. So, here is an age 1 card. You can see there's that little dash in the bottom. And an age 2 card. And you might not be able to see this, but this is all kind of grayed out, and you're getting just a little bit of color in the photo with that one. And now, in age 3, you can see a little more color, a little more going on there with Marie Curie. I think that's what it is. And finally, age 4, you finally have a full color card. So I thought that was kind of neat, the fact that they kind of put that level of detail, and you can kind of tell then which age of card you have just by looking at the picture. But then again, of course, the number's right on the bottom, so it doesn't matter, but I just thought it was kind of cool. Now, you'll see these 2 decks over the side over here, and just wanted to show them really quickly. This, you can see on the very, very bottom here, you can see there's this little, and some of these cards aren't cut perfectly, but you can see there's this little tiny like red square there. It looks almost like a red diamond. And that is like the expert set of cards. And on these, you can see down here there's this little blue plus, and these are the like advanced deck of cards. And so the cards I'm going to be just kind of dinking around with and playing and showing you how the game works are the base set, and that's the set you should start out with. And but these, just like the backs of this add a lot to the game, and also add to the longevity of the game because of the fact that you can mix and match whatever the heck you want. You don't have to just say, okay, now we're done playing the advanced or the basic set. Let's go to the advanced set and we'll just use those. You could take half of that deck and mix and match. You could take both and shuffle them all up or whatever. Do whatever you want. There's actually some good suggestions in the rulebook as far as how you want to do that. And I will say right now that once you start using these cards, the game gets a lot more like complex in some ways, but a lot more fun, a lot more cool as well. But anyway, so that's that as far as the different decks of cards. And I just wanted to show that because basically, I mean, like, this adds a lot of replayability to the game because the best part of these types of games, in my opinion, are kind of like the discovery of the game. You know, like, oh, it's like, oh, look at that cool card, oh, look at that cool card, oh, look at that cool card. And for me anyway, and I know that this isn't exactly a commonly held feeling, but once like you've kind of seen all the cards and you're like, oh, there's that card, oh, there's that, it kind of loses a little bit of the excitement. And that's not exactly always a bad thing, because that means now I can kind of start concentrating on the strategy of the game and just being a better player of the game. But I always do like the whole, like, cool, look at that cool card, or look at that cool military weapon, or whatever, you know, and I do like that aspect. And I should mention also, here's like the big giant pile of cardboard resources that you'll be collecting as the game progresses. And if I can say one thing, I mean, I really do like the look of the game. I love the cards. I love it. It's very basic, but I mean, I do like that it's very clean. It's very clear. The rules are incredibly well written and well done. The one thing, maybe I'm alone in this, I really wish these had been wooden components. You know, just because, I don't know, I'm with a game like this, I want big giant piles of wooden blocks, or like, you know, little wooden wheat things, or wooden coins and things like that. You know, just that's just my personal opinion. But whatever, the game works just perfectly fine with cardboard tokens, so it isn't like it actually ruins the game in any way. Just a personal preference. All right, so we're going to fill the progress card. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these Age 1 cards right here, and we're just going to start slapping them down. Now you notice there's this 1 gold coin, 2 gold coin, 3 gold coins over there. And as you put these cards down, when you're going to be purchasing these cards, that's how many coins it costs to purchase them. So we're just going to place these down. And I'm not going to like really comment on any of these cards just yet. I'm just going to kind of experience them as they show up here. It's like, oh, there's a wonder. That's kind of cool. And, you know, you can see there's buildings, there's wonders, there's military units, there's an advisor, there's some colonies. And, you know, for the most part, when... turn this around. For the most part, when you put these cards down, you're going to get a wide variety of items. And a bunch of buildings on the bottom for 1 gold coin. I love that when that happens when I'm playing the game. You know, because I like the buildings. I like adding things to my like nice tangible things to my newfound nation, if you will. So we've placed down the new progress, and then the next phase of the game is you're going to take a growth. And that sounds kind of weird, but this is the growth phase of the game. This is when you're actually going to make up your mind as to whether or not you're going to add a worker to your nation. So you have 5 you start off with that you get for free, but then you either get to take an extra worker, which means that's never a bad thing, because that means it's more people working, more military, more people sitting on your quarries and what have you, working for you, and or you can take a resource, either food, rocks, or gold. Now, I didn't explain this little part here because I wanted to wait and explain that right now. This is kind of like a handicap. You can handicap the game. So if you have one person that totally gets the game and they're really good at the game, they can actually say, I'm going to play at king level or emperor level. And those of you who played Civilization, you know what that is. Chieftain, prince, king, emperor. If you've played Sid Meier's Civilization, that you saw that and you said, that's the difficulty levels. I thought that was totally awesome that they used that. But anyway, so if somebody's new, they're going to maybe take Chieftain. If somebody's been playing the game, I'm going to take Prince, because that's... And you don't get anything by making the game tougher for you. You don't. But by playing it at a lower level, you do get something. And that is, you can take 4, 3, 2, or 1, depending on the level of difficulty you chose. You can take that many of one of these resources during the growth phase instead of taking a person and adding it to your nation. So, as a chieftain, the green said, I'm going to take 4 rocks, and they could just, you know, That's 5. So they can take 4 rocks, and they're going to put that in there, along with the stuff they got at the beginning of the game. And the prince says, you know, it's like, well, I'm not going to take anything. I'm gonna take a. I don't have the blue board in front of me, but I'm going to have enough food, so I'm going to take a food worker. I'm going to put that out there. So they're going to have that extra person to work. But that's how that works, and that's the growth phase of the game. So now you're going to have an event, and the events kind of look like the progress cards, because they also increase in color on the card until you can see the difference there, obviously. And events are basically something that could have something bad happen, most likely something bad, or something good, or what have you. And you take the top event and you turn it over, and you have area and migration. And actually, and this is one of those cool things about the game. It's almost kind of educational, in that, like, it actually tells you. It's like, oh, this happened during this period, the 1700 to 1300 BCE in India, and the Code of Hammurabi was in 1750 Babylonia. You know, and so it like actually has a little footnote for you to look at. But anyway, so what this is there'll be 2 extra extra architects available. During the wrap-up phase, there's going to be a famine of -1 food, so everybody's got to spend an extra food this turn. But as you can see here, the person with the least combat ability is going to lose 3 books from that track over there. And the Code of Hammurabi, all except the person with the least amount of stability get +3 food. And so, and ties mean that, like, so if these 2 players tie, that means nothing would happen. Well, except for, like, technically, they would have the least, well, actually, it would just be bad. Technically, both would have the least combat, so they both have the effect affect them, and both would have the least number of stability, and they wouldn't get the food. So this is something that, like, is like what the players are going to be thinking about. They're going to need to work towards, and trying to be able to beat the other player in those levels, so they can avoid those negative aspects. And so that's placed out there. You put the 2 architects that they have available, you place those on the board, and now everybody knows what's going on there. So now you can actually get into the actions of the game, and that's when you start. You have 3 options. Well, technically 4, but you have 3 options. You can either buy a progress card, you can place a worker on one of the spots, and remember, these spots are here and available for you, since they're printed on the board. You can buy an architect and put it to work on one of your wonders. And I'll just show you really quick. Like, here's the Colosseum, and once again has the year up on top there. You'll see, like, at the end of the game, this is worth a victory point if you have it. You can see here it's going to take 2 architects to place on. The first one, it's -2 rocks when you place it on. The second one's -2 rocks, so you put it on. Once it's built, you're going to immediately gain 3 military, and when it is ready, meaning it's built, you have to pay 2 food. But that's only a one-time payment. So, and then the Colosseum is done. Now, in comparison, we'll look at the Hanging Gardens here. The Hanging Gardens in Babylon, -1 rocks, -2 rocks, first one. And then, during production, you're immediately going to gain 1 stability once it's made. It's going to create 2 food for you in production, and it's going to cost you a rock, like, every single production phase. And so, things to think about. Once wonders are built, you pretty much can't get rid of them. So you gotta always make sure that there's something that you want, and something that's going to continue to be effective for you. All right, so I think actually what would be really cool right now, I'm just going to show you the other cards so you can kind of see what they do. Like, here is an advisor. You can only ever have 1 advisor, and, of course, so that in the base game here. And so this one it's worth, he'll make 3 food for you. This guy's awesome. He's always just making 3 food for you. And once again, here's the name, and when he lived and what have you. But if you notice this, it says if you have the least stability, you remove him, meaning that he leaves your nation, and so you lose him. So right now, if you actually bought that guy, you'd lose him immediately because you have technically these two players are tied, and they both have the least stability. So this is something that like you'd have to wait until you had more than the other player, and then you take it and have to try to maintain that so you wouldn't lose him. All right, there's 3 colonies out there. Like I'll show you this one real quick. Like here's Nubia, and to take a colony, you have to have a military strength of equal or greater than the number here, which is 3. And the colonies just kind of sit there, and this one gets you 2 money every turn. And it's also it's not worth any victory points at the end of the game. You can barely see that. I apologize. There you go, 0. But you just place a colony. Colonies, you can take over another colony. If you get 2 colonies and you take over another colony, you can pick one and get rid of it and replace it. And like here's Macedonia. And like if you want to take that, it's 2 military. And you have 4 or greater. So if you take that, you just immediately get 2 military for having it. If you ever got rid of it, though, you lose that 2 military, obviously. Like military, you should always be trying to like maintain it. Or as far as like, so if you get rid of something that was giving you military strength, you have to immediately reduce your military. In that case. So a military unit. Remember, these can go in any one of these locations here. Military unit, here's the Immortals. You can see here, like, if you have workers on them at the end of the game, they'd be worth one would be worth 1 victory point, another would be worth another victory point. You can have as many as you want on here, but only the first 2 would score anything for you. You can see here, that's their raid value. That's important because if you ever do a battle, you would gain 3 resources by using this weapon, using these guys in a raid. And you can see that when you put a worker on here, you immediately gain 3 military strength, but you lose a point of stability. Whereas here, this hoplite has same raid ability, has same military ability, but in production you lose a rock for having a worker on there. Finally, we have like buildings. Buildings are really straightforward, and you recognize once again here it's like worth victory points at the end. There's 1 each there, and then you get 2 money and 1 food for every worker that's on this during the production phase. And I'm not going to show you. Here's city wall, 2 rocks and a stability. 2 gold and a rock, 2 food and a stability. And so there you go. I'm going to find the last. There's 2 types of cards that I didn't get. Wait a minute. Those are the events. We should probably look at the progress cards. Let's see here. Military unit. Actually 3 cards. I forgot. So here is what's called a Golden Age card. And with the Golden Age, if you take it and you pay for it, you immediately get +2 books, or you can get rid of resource and get a victory point for taking it. And here we go. Here is a battle, Siege of Alesia. So here's the different types of resources you can gain for doing the siege, and so you can get like one of these times the raid value of the unit. So if you use those Immortals with a raid value of 3, you could get 3 books, 3 food, or 3 rocks. And finally, I'll find a war. Here we go. Cool. A war. So here's the Parthian Wars. And when you buy this, you immediately then, you notice there's a -1 victory point here and a -3 gold. Whatever military value your nation happens to be, like let's say it's 6, you take this particular, you put the war down on that location, you take this black marker and you put it underneath your disc there, saying that like you started this war, the Parthian Wars, and its strength value is 6. So now every other player in the game has to try to either get to 6, equal it, or get higher than 6 to avoid losing those 3 gold from the war. Now it should be noted that if for whatever reason you actually go down and below 6 before the end of the round, you are affected by the war exactly the same. So you need to make sure that you maintain your military strength as well. The -1 victory points, it'll happen to anybody that doesn't doesn't equal or have greater than the value of the war. But you can mitigate the loss of the resources by having a higher stability. So like if in the thing, blue had a 4 stability, oh well, you lose three gold. No, I don't, because I have high enough stability. I don't lose any gold, but I still lose that 1 victory point. If blue is at there, and you didn't have 2 stability, that's not enough. They'd still lose 1 gold. One of the catch-all rules of this game is that if you ever aren't able to pay a resource loss that you have earned, for lack of a better term, you lose victory points as well when that happens. So you need to try to maintain or try to avoid resource loss in any case, and especially avoid resource loss that would actually be of a value that you can't actually pay. So those are the different types of cards. So now after all that, the progress is pretty simple. So like, you spend a gold coin. Well, let's say I bought the city wall. So it creates 2 rocks and gives me stability. So we'll farm. No, I need the food possibly. So we'll go there. He places that on that location, pays the 1 gold. The other player, let's say they took the hoplite, and I'm just kind of doing this kind of at random. So the next player, decided, well, I really like that Coliseum, so they go ahead and do that. And the next one, no, I'm going to try to get some more of my, they're going to try to shoot for having a higher stability, so they're going to take that and hopefully I'll be able to pull it off. And then so the next player, since they're got a Coliseum, perhaps they spend the 2 rock and they put an architect on the Coliseum so they can have that done. The blue player then takes the aqueduct because this will give them stability, so they're going to take that and hopefully put enough workers on there so they're above the other player. And so the game kind of progresses like this, and each person taking a turn. And so maybe I'm able to get another architect. I'm able to build the Coliseum. So then I would just move the Coliseum, that the architects then just go back into the pool like so. And so now then I get 3 military strength for that. So let me just put that back down and get rid of this because that didn't actually happen. So he'd go up to having a 3 military. And then one of the cool things, since you have a 3 military, he decides, well, I can take Nubia now. And so maybe he'd pay the 3 gold and he'd get Nubia because he has a 3 military now and he can take that. And so maybe the other player now puts a couple of people on the aqueduct that they took, so they're up to a 2 in that particular spot. And now the player actually decides that, well, gets hold of this kind of better farm. Forum creates food and gold, and so they place a worker on there and a worker on there, and that would increase their well, actually, I'm sorry. Yeah, there we go. Increase their stability to 1, but since it costs stone, they're running out of things that they can do, so it's like, well, I want more money, so go there. I'm just picking at this point. And finally puts another one on the axeman. Maybe he's hoping, since the other player didn't really go the route of having any military, they're going to have an even higher military of 5. They can maintain that first player, and hopefully next turn they can get a war out there, and they can start a war, and they can hurt the other player in that fashion. So you're done. You've purchased the things you wanted to purchase. You've placed the workers where you wanted to place them. So you do production, and production is just kind of and each person can just figure it out and they just do it on their own term, and they just kind of go along and just figure out for each one of the major resources, like books. Player 1 we get 1 book, and so we go like that. And then next up, let's go rocks. So they have a worker here for 2 rocks. They get 2 rocks. Nothing else creates rocks for them. So, they get 2 rocks, and so they'd take 2 of those, and then place that in their stockpile. And so then you just, like I said, you just keep going. You know, money and food and what have you. And so then they pile all that stuff up, and they get their big pile of resources they created in this round. And the next thing you do is player order. Well, as we noticed that the green actually went military, blue didn't, so the player order maintains the same. If there was a war at this point, you would determine the war and what happens with that war. And then you would go and you would do the event. And so you'd sit there and you go, okay, well, the Aryan migration, whoever's got the least amount of military strength loses 3 books. Well, you know, let's just say, for example, like let's say the blue got 4 books that round. So then they drop back down to 1. And then the Code of Hammurabi, all except the person with the least amount of stability gains 3 food. So blue would actually get 3 food from that event because of the fact that you know, they just wouldn't because they had a higher stability than the other one. And maybe that was their plan, you know, because maybe they didn't take like food developing things because they were planning on that event giving them that food that they needed instead of actually having to have different cards that help them for that particular thing. Finally, you take a famine, so -1 food. Everybody's got to pay a food, take care of that. And then, if it was the end of this 3rd round, what you would do is you would determine whoever's the highest books, and that's when the extra victory point situation happens, as I explained. So then you start the next round. The first thing you do is you get rid of these 3 cards. They're gone, they're done, you can't ever get them back. And you take these 2 cards and you slide them down, like so. And then you then fill out the progress cards, if you will, and you place these down then for the people to choose from. And so now, like we had those, here's some wars and some battles, and another, you know, and another cool pile of stuff for people to try to gain and try to use. And now the whole thing starts over, and you begin again, and you push this over to the B of antiquity, and then you put your product like this, and then we go through the growth, and you decide if you're going to take the resources or if you're going to activate a worker. And so let's just say green decides they're going to activate a worker, and these workers stay out there. It should be noted that they don't move or they don't leave until you actually make them leave. You can move them to another spot and just pay the rock cost for moving it. The only time they ever actually leave and come back and sit in front of you is if you purchase another spot and you cover it up like so. And if you did that, you would take those and you'd put them down, and then you'd have to put them back up. Now here's what the weird and kind of tricky thing is that you have to make sure that when you do that, you have the rock to be able to use these workers and put them back up somewhere. So it's very important that you're able to not only, if you're going to cover something up, you have to be able to get your workers back out there to be able to do something. And it's kind of one of those things where it's if your workers are out there, you've paid that initial cost. It costs you a rock to put on something that creates something. So leaving them there through successive turns, you start actually getting something back on your investment, which is actually obviously really important. So you're not just treading water, if you will. You're not spending constantly to put it to a new spot on the board. Another really cool aspect of the game, if you will. And so, but as I said, this is just, it continues until, and then once you get to age 2, you start using age 2 cards, and age 3 and age 4, and finally you finish up the game. When you finish up the game, you will total up how many victory point tokens you accumulated during the game, and then any victory points you get from colonies, you add that together. Any victory points from wonders you completed, any victory points from the buildings that you have, and depending on how many workers are on there, and you read those from left to right. And this is important because, and I'll show you an age 3 building here, or just a later building. Like you can see here with terrace farming, you can see it's 2-1-1. So 1 worker's worth 2, next worker's worth 1, next worker's worth 1. And there are some, and I'll see if I can find one for you here to show you. And of course I'm not going to be able to find one offhand. What the heck? don't know, but like some of the buildings don't just follow that left to right decreases. There are some that actually like the second or third are actually worth more victory points. So it actually behooves you to get a worker onto the second or third spot, because it actually, by having more workers on the, I can't find one offhand now, but it'll actually like gain you more victory points. So, oh yeah, so here we go. Well, here's one that's like, 2, 2, 1. So like having one on there worth 2, that's good. Another one worth 2, it's good. Third one, well, it's only worth 1 victory point. So having somebody on that spot maybe isn't that important, but it's something for you to think about as far as that's concerned. Well, and like, oh, here we go. Like, here's this military unit. One on here is worth 1, but then they start being worth 2 for each one that's on there. So things like that, pretty important. But something just to keep in mind as you're playing the game. But and then you total up that, you total up the military, which I just shown you, and then you total up all of your resources. So all of your gold, all of your food, your rocks, your books, the level that you're at on your the military and on the stability. You total all that up and you divide it by 10, round down, and you get that as points as well. And whoever has the most points, obviously then wins the game. So there you go. That's how you play nations. Now, it took me a long time to explain everything to you because I was just kind of going through each step. But when you teach this game to somebody, it's really simple, because it's a very, very simple rule set, and it's a very, very easy to grasp process. I mean, the biggest part of the game is doing the actions and knowing when you're going to pass or how many actions you're going to do, and you just kind of like and your resource management. And so if you're a person that kind of likes player order games, resource management games, and civilization games, I mean, this is one of those things that kind of hits on all buttons for me. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that it hits on all buttons for you as well. But I'll go into more of that with my conclusion, which I will do right now. I don't know why I'm doing some weird UFO whistling noise, so sorry about that. Alright, so there you go. Nations, how to play it. Cool, huh? Alright, let's just start off from the very beginning. My gut reaction the first time I played the game. Wow, this game's fun! Wow, this game is really tough. Ooh, this game's frustrating me. I don't have enough stuff. I can't do the things that I want to do. Ooh, that turn order. Why I can't get any of the cards I want. Why didn't the cards come out that I need? Oh yeah, this is awesome. I got my good stuff. Oh, I just that was kind of like my first play of the game. It was just my emotions are up and down and up and down. I was like in between periods of time when I was like purchasing like like buildings and what have you, and I was really jazzed about it, and I was like, oh, this is awesome, and then I was just like, oh, it's just like, like I had a really high military at one point, and I didn't have any good, I didn't have enough like resources, so I needed battle to show up so I could fight the battle and then get resources, and it just didn't happen. It just wouldn't come out for me. So the game, my first play of the game, I was very intrigued by it. I was very, I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. And there was a lot of stuff about the game that I really, really liked. But there was a lot of stuff about the game that I was really suspect about. I was really suspect about the idea of the turn order being almost too powerful. Right? You needed to be, in the lead and have the ability to go first. It seemed like that was just, it was a no-brainer. You had to be player number one, just because of the fact that you wanted the first grab at those cards. And I immediately, after I got done playing with it, and I played it with the group of guys that I refer to as my Bizarro gaming group. I only say that because I have the gaming group that I've known for like 3 decades. And then these guys, I mean, I've known now for about 4 or 5 years. And so when I go and play games with those guys, and the cool thing is if you've ever, I'm sub-referencing, so I apologize, but if you've ever seen, if you watch Seinfeld, and then when Jerry kind of meets the other group of people that are kind of like his Bizarro, the group, you know, it's kind of that same thing, because each person that I have in my group is represented by somebody else in the other, so it's kind of weird. But anyway, we got done, we were discussing the game after the fact, and we were talking about what we thought, and of course I didn't like it at first because I didn't win, you know, so of course the game sucks, but I'm kidding, of course. But what a lot of it was for me was we were kind of trying to figure out, you know, because the first time you play a game, you know, it's like it's fresh and it's new and it's got a lot of intricacies that you don't know, and there's a lot of things that you need to, you know, be able to digest, and you kind of take that, I think I should do this next time, and then you take that, you know, that from that experience, and the next time you play it, you kind of apply those lessons that you've learned. But so what it was for me was, I had all these, like I said, concerns and suspect, and like things like I thought that just possibly, you know, there were some things that needed some tweaking, maybe to make the game better, and so I was a little concerned. But I went into the next time I played it, and I kind of started seeing the turn order and like seeing what was going on, and then I realized that like there's a lot of things you can do even if you aren't first and you can't go first. There's a lot of things you can do to mitigate that. You can focus on money, and the reason why you focus on money is because you then can buy those cards that are on the 2 and then of course the 3 purchase level, because you know the person's going first, they're going to take that cheap card right away, usually, if you will, you know, and so the good cheap card is going to be gone. But you can mitigate that a little bit by, like, you know, just having lots of gold at your disposal. So you can use that to you know, purchase the cards that you want, you know, and so there were things like that that you know I of course was looking at and concerned about. I mean, and then I played it again, and then I saw that there were things about the game that I really liked. I mean, I really liked the idea that as the game progressed, I mean, it became more difficult as the game progressed. So you had to have a really good engine when you got out of age 2 to really start to excel in age 3, and the same thing went from age 3 to age 4. You couldn't. It was kind of like a steeper incline. So it's like you needed to build this really good base and have this really good. And so I love that challenge part, that challenge aspect. Ultimately, I really, really like Nations. I really do. I've enjoyed it every single time I played it. I played it about 6 times now. I find the game to be, like I said, extremely challenging. I find the game to be engaging. I love, you know, trying to figure out A plus B equals C and trying to make those things work and building my and I do feel like I'm building a civilization, which is very important to me when I'm playing a civilization game. I don't want it to be abstract. I want to feel like I'm building China. I want to feel like I'm building Rome. Those are things I want. Now, all that being said, I mean, the game has a great, simple rule set, which is key. You can literally teach somebody how to play this game probably in about 10 to 15 minutes. Not even, maybe, if they played a lot of games. Mastering the game, of course, is a complete other story. But it has a nice, simple rule set that like, and then they have layers upon layers upon layers of strategies that you can use, which I like. So right there, it has that, like, it doesn't have like that monster of a rule problem that Through the Ages has. However, there are some things that I wish were a little bit different. I want the game to go larger than just World War I. I mean, I guess that's what expansions are for, right? I mean, expansions are for, you know, being able to go further and go more. And I think that there's also things that you need to be able to. I wish there was more ways to directly affect somebody. Yes, you can go to war, and you can you can force other people to try to um, you like have to build their military to a certain level so they can defeat the war. But the problem with that, in my opinion, is that with the stability, you really can't make them lose a lot of their stuff. As long as if their stability is high enough, they just aren't going to be losing anything from losing the war. They'll lose some victory points, which is good, of course, because victory points actually allow you to win. But I don't think wars are debilitating enough. I found it a little bit frustrating when I would have a high military and there would really be no way for anybody to catch that, and I'd take a war. And it'd be like, oh, it's -6 food. It's like, oh, that's awesome. I'm going to take all that food away from that person. And then the thing goes through, and it's like, oh, well, my stability's 8, so yeah, whatever. Fine, you win the war. I lose victory point. I've been focusing on this, and I got 3 victory points out of that. So what does it matter? So I mean, that's a little bothersome for me, but don't let like the little sour apple that I'm pointing out affect the overall impression I have with this game. This is an awesome, brain-burning, medium-heavy Civilization game that I've enjoyed a great deal. I love the expanded game. I love the all the different cards and all the different things they have out there. I love the fact that it's very historical and it's very actually in a weird way educational. And I appreciate that about it, and it's just like there's a lot of times when I picked up a card and I'm like, well, who's this person? And I really go to Wikipedia on my phone. It's like, oh, that's who that person is. And so and I like that aspect of the game. I like that. I mean, it's a little abstract, but I do think that the best Civilization games don't have a map. And they don't. You just if you're dealing with like area majority and things like that, I think the game kind of bogs down a little bit in that world of having to move units around the map and things like that, and it ends up taking away from what I find to be the most interesting part of the whole Civilization game experience, and that's the maintaining my society and building my resources, having food, keeping my people happy and things like that. And Nations does that. It has a great little village mentality of you just kind of taking care of it a little bit. The game is a monster. I know you can get it online. Obviously this game was sent to me for nothing, but I mean, I know like the online price is $65. So I mean, if you had to ask me if it's worth that, yes. I mean, if I hadn't got this sent to me, I was going to buy it anyway, and I can honestly tell you that if I bought it online, or even if I bought it at my local game store where I get a discount, I would not be upset at all about the expenditure of the game. This is one of those rare games that I actually think I am going to go out and pimp out the cardboard pieces. I'm going to actually get like maybe like those little black crystals for the rocks, and I'll go and I'll get the little wheat things from Agricola for the food and things like that. And I think I'm going to want to pimp this game out just because it looks nice, and for it to be a more tactile fun game. Maybe get some cool coins or something for the money, if you will. So there you go. So as I always try to do, Nations, will you like it? If you want a Civilization game that is easily taught but tough to master, get this game. If you want a game that handles 1 through 5 people pretty well, I mean, I immediately haven't played the solo game, so I apologize for that. But if you want to like play one that handles that progression of many people, this is that game. If you want a game that is very stingy with its victory points, making those decisions to get victory points extremely important, then this is a really great game. How many games have you played where it's like, and then you get 17 victory points for this, and you get another 25 victory points for this, and here's a big bucket load of victory points for having that? Not in this game. Each victory point you get is like, it's just precious. You need to hold on to it, and any chance you have to get a victory point, take it, because this is definitely one of those games where if you worry too much about your engine, and the engine doesn't get you victory points at the end of the game. The engine has to be used to get victory points while you're playing the game. That's a very fine distinction. There's a lot of Euro games out there that it's like, hey, make your pretty little garden. And then at the end of the game, you're like, oh, how pretty was your garden? Okay, it was pretty pretty. Okay, here, this is how many points you got for your pretty little garden right there. This isn't that kind of game. This is a game where you are building an engine that's got to get you victory points, and you need to use that engine at any chance you possibly have. And I like that. I like that a great deal. I mean, I don't mind the other version, but I like the fact that you have to basically be like always looking, always striving to increase your point total as the game progresses. So there you go. So there, if that's something you like, and plus it says 40 minutes per person, and that's really, really accurate. The 5-player game that we played, and there was one new person. The other 4 of us knew we'd played the game prior. It lasted around 3.5 hours, which for a big game like this really isn't that bad. I mean, it was and that was with table talk and stuff like that, because you're waiting for the one person. Well, of course, hey, that Doctor Who episode, or not Doctor Who, because I've never watched a single episode. I never will. But I mean, stuff like that. It was like cool little fun table talk going on and what have you. So. Finally, and I know this has gone a little long, but finally, the game does a really good job of ramping itself very well. The first time you play with all the simple cards, play with the simple side, the A side of the boards, and then get a feel for it. And then start working in the other cards and building it and making it bigger and making it better. And one final thing, and I'm sorry. There is one thing that kind of bugged me. One player did this, and he had he had saved up until like the very end of the game. He had saved a building that cost 1 rock or coal or whatever to activate, and because the whole thing is like you have to take an action or you pass, right? So he was always like, if he needed to have like something to do so he could wait and see what somebody else did, he would move his 1 coal and just move a guy onto that spot. Now, admittedly, he was kind of boning himself a little bit by like using up one of his precious few locations for a very substandard card, especially later on in the game. And and if he wanted to move that worker off, he had to pay full price, obviously. But I don't know. I guess that what I didn't like about that, I guess it's a fine strategy, and kudos to him for figuring that out. Is something that he wanted to do. I mean, he didn't end up winning, but it was something that actually enabled him a couple times to like, kind of, wait and see what other people do, and it didn't thematically fit the civilization theme of the game. And I guess that kind of rubbed me a little bit the wrong way. But I guess that's something maybe I have to get over, and it isn't really a problem with the game. And obviously it wasn't that big of a problem, because I've gone on and on about how good I think the game is. So there you go. So Nations, it is widely available. You can find it online, find it at your local game store. If not, tell them to order you a copy. You can have one. So thanks again for watching one of these big long videos that I do. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to have this running. However, I get more emails from people saying that they just watch my videos while they're at work on YouTube, and so to your bosses, I apologize for your inefficiency and poor productivity while you're doing this. So, but nonetheless, I am humbled that you would take the time to listen to me talk and do this thing that I do. So, I got lots of games coming up to review. I got a backlog of them. So expect to see a lot of the cool new hotness that everybody's talking about. I've got my take on a lot of those games, and they're coming out. And in pretty short order, I'll have my top 10 of 2013 as well. I pretty much got the games picked. I just need to kind of finalize the positions, and I got to find the time to do that video, because as you all know, that video runs way long and I talk about pretty much anything. So there you go. And we'll look for a video blog coming up very soon. I'm going to be asking a few questions of my viewers, and it's something that I want to hear your take on the 2013 games, and also I have some requests as well. So awesome. Thank you very much, each and every one of you. Subscribe to my channel over on my either YouTube or my Google Plus or whatever it is, and that's probably the best way to always catch my videos. I do post them to BGG, Board Game Geek, as soon as I publish them as well, so you can definitely just subscribe to me, Undead Viking, over at Board Game Geek, and then you'll see whenever I post a video over there as well. So until next time, please stay warm. It is very cold outside, unless this is summer when you watch this video. And take care of yourself. And until next time, this was Undead Viking. Thanks again for watching this. Bye-bye.